Hello everyone, welcome back. This is a new lecture in your course Linux for Absolute Beginners by Avionics. My name is Ahmed, and in this section we are discussing how to work with files in Linux. In the previous lectures we have seen how we can create new files, copy them, move them, and create links that point to different files on the system. Now let's have a look at how we can delete files. Deleting files and directories can be done using the Nautilus on the GUI and using the rm command on the command line. As usual, if you want to delete files on the Nautilus, you will just have to right-click on the file or folder and choose delete, and this file or folder will be deleted. Actually, it won't get deleted, it will be moved to something called a trash can, which is the equivalent to the recycle bin that is available on Windows systems. The concept is just that you don't have to delete the file or directory entirely from the system. Just put it in a temporary location where the user can restore it back. If he deleted it by accident, for example, he or she can restore that file or folder from the trash can. However, when you use the command line, unfortunately this is not possible. The rm command will not move the files or folders to any trash cans, it will just remove them completely from the system. Now, the syntax of rm is very simple. You will just type rm followed by a number of files, and those files will get immediately deleted. But rm has a number of options that deserve having a look at. Now, first of all, rm cannot delete directories, so let's create an empty directory. We'll have a look at creating directories later in this section. So this is now an empty dir. Okay, as you can see here. If I want to delete this directory like this using rm empty dir, it will not get deleted. Why? Because rm cannot work with directories unless it is passed using the -r option. -r for recursive. It will delete the empty dir and every subdirectory underneath it. Now it has been deleted. If I try to ls-ld again, empty dir, you will see that it does not exist. However, because rm is a dangerous command, because it can potentially delete files that are important by accident, and you don't have any easy or simple way to restore those files back to the system, so most of the systems use rm-i by default before deleting files. -i here stands for interactive. It is the same option that has been used with the mv and the cp command that we have explained in the previous lectures. rm-i will do the same thing. It will ask you for confirmation before deleting the file or folder. So let's say here I want to delete file1.new, but before deleting it I will be prompted by this question, rm remove regular file file1.new, and then I'll have to press yes or no in order to complete or to commit the operation. I will press N, and that means that file1.new is still intact. It has not been deleted. Some systems, as we said, put -i by default in the user profile, which means that whenever the user tries to use rm, it will ask him or her by default whether or not you want to complete this operation. If you want to override this behavior, you can use the f. So rm-f will delete the file that you pass into it. If you want to delete files and directories recursively, you will use -rf. And beware that rm-rf is one of the most dangerous commands on a running Linux application, especially if you're running it as root, because as we said, root is the system administrator. This user can delete any file on the system, no matter how important it was for the system to stay running. So for example, if you wanted to delete a directory that is called, for example, /opt/ let's say Google, for example, and then by mistake you placed here a space between the slash and the opt/Google, that means that rm-rf will delete the root directory with every single directory and file underneath it, and then it will try to delete the directory opt/Google. Well, it may report an error and it may not, but in all cases it will delete some important files and directories that are placed on the root directory and that are crucial for the system to stay running. So it is highly recommended that you take the maximum possible caution before using rm-rf, especially if you are using it as root, and do not use -f except if you are absolutely sure that you want to delete those files or directories and you are not intending to restore them back. Now let's talk about globbing. Globbing is also one big word that refers to something that is very simple. Globbing is just another name for wildcards. If you have worked before with wildcards, they are those characters that make you expand a file name. For example, if I want to list all the file names that ends, for example, in .text, if you're coming from a Windows environment, this is very common. You want to list all the files that are ending in .text, so you just place *.text, and asterisk here will refer to any character or any group of characters that end in .text. This is actually a wildcard. In Linux, this is called a wildcard, and using wildcards in Linux is called globbing. Let's have a look at all the globbing options we have. We have talked about asterisk, and as we said, it refers to 0 or more characters. We also have a question mark, and a question mark will refer to exactly one character. And you can also use character sets in square brackets like this. The square brackets can contain a range of characters, like for example from B to D, for example, just like the first letter followed by a dash followed by the last letter, and the system will consider that you want to have all the files that start with the letters or by one of the letters that are in this set. So if you are if you're putting P to D, it will consider that you want to have all the files that start with B, C, or D. So let's have an example to illustrate this more. So for example, here I have in my current directory a number of files and folders. Now let's say I want to display all the files or all the folders that start with the letter T. So I will type ls-l, and because I want to display only directories, and I want to display the directory metadata rather than the contents of the directory, I will type ls-ld instead of -l alone, and I'll just write T followed by an asterisk for 0 or more characters. And it has given me templates. Templates here is a word that starts with capital T, and it is followed by those number of characters. It doesn't care how many. It will match 0 or more characters. But notice here that I don't have the test.sh symbolic link. So what if I want to have also test.sh printed in this output? Now this time I can use the character set with T or T like this, followed by an asterisk. And this will give me templates as the directory, and also it will give me test.sh as a file. So here I use the character set in order to display all the files and folders that start with either a capital T or a small t. And notice here that Linux and Unix in general is case sensitive. Case sensitive means that this file, let's just clear the screen, this file is totally different than this file, is totally different than this file, and so on. As you can see here, I have created the same file name, file, and file, but with different character case combinations. In the second one, the F was capital. In the first one, all were small. In the third one, the second character was capital. And Linux created 3 different files for me, each of which with the same name as the other, but with different character casing. And Linux will consider these 3 files as totally 3 different files. They are not clones to each other. They are not hard-linked or soft-linked to each other. They are just 3 different entities, 3 different files on the system. So you'll have to keep this in mind when using globbing, because as we said, if you want to display the templates folder and the test.sh symbolic link, you'll have to use this form of globbing, because here I have opted to display anything starting with capital T or small t. So with a case-sensitive system like Linux, it will display this output to me. And of course the question mark will be handy if I want to have one missing character in my output, and this missing character will be substituted by all the matching entries. So let's say, for example, I want to display everything that has happy like this, followed by a single character, followed by text like this, and this will give me only one output, which is happy.text. Okay, so that is called globbing. Now in this section we have worked so far with files, and we have made a little emphasis on directories. In most of our commands, namely in the RM and the CP, we had to use a specific option to deal with directories. So in CP, if you wanted to copy a directory, you had to use -R capital, and in RM, if you wanted to delete recursively a directory, you had to use the -R in order to work with directories. Otherwise, the command fails with an error. Now, in this slide, let's see how we can work with directories the same way we worked with files. We're gonna start by creating directories. Creating directories is as simple as using the makedir command, the mkdir command, to create a directory. Just type makedir followed by the name of the directory, and the directory is created. Let's clear this. We have seen this already before, but let's put some detail into it. So let's make directory again mkdir. I have just created a directory that is called mkdir. And of course, in Nautilus, you can use right-click new folder, and it will create a new directory for you. And again, using the command line, you will have some more options at your disposal than in the GUI. Let's have a look at them. So first thing, you can create a number of directories in one go like this. Makedir and mkdir1, mkdir2. And in one go, you have created 2 directories. You can also say mkdir, like for example album, and then album/wedding. Now makedir will first create the first directory, which is album, and then once created, it will create another subdirectory under album, which is called wedding. Of course, Nautilus or any GUI application cannot do that sort of thing that fast. In one line, you have created 2 directories. One of them is a subdirectory of the other. If you have a look here, we have album, and album will have inside it wedding. Okay, and there is even a shorter way to do this. Instead of creating the album first and then creating the wedding subdirectory underneath it, you can use something like this: makedir -p, and let's say you want to have a directory that is called Apple, and underneath it I will have a directory that is called iOS. Okay, and underneath it I will have a directory that is called 9, then update. As you can see here, I'm trying to create 4 directories underneath each other, and the problem is those directories were not created before. Okay, but using the -p command for parent will make the command create all the necessary directories underneath each other like this. Let's see what happens if I omit the -p first in order to see the difference. Cannot create directory Apple iOS 9 update because no such file or directory. This is referring to the fact that even if it created Apple, it cannot reference it back to create the directory iOS and further to create 9 and update, because this directory did not exist at the time of execution. But adding -p will solve this problem like this. Now I have a complete directory tree. Okay, Apple iOS 9 update. Okay, so this is the power of the makedir command. In any GUI application, you would have to create them one by one until you reach the deepest level of the directory tree that you want to, but using the makedir -p command in one go, you can create as much deep levels of directories as you intend. Another handy command is makedir -m, and -m here refers to the permissions that will be put to the directory when it is created. Actually, we're going to have a look at permissions later in this course. Just understand for now that permissions are just a way to protect files and folders from unauthorized access, and we're going to discuss in detail the permission bits and what this number refers to, 755. But it is just the default permission that is going to be put to a directory that will be called, for example, test-dir, like this. If I ls-ld test-dir, I'll see that it has the permissions that I have put, 755. Okay, and if you want to delete directories, this can be done using either rm-r or the command rmdir. And as a rule of thumb, use rmdir whenever possible instead of rm-r, because rmdir will give you the required precaution as not to delete accidentally important data. rmdir is used to delete empty directories. Only empty directories are deleted using the rmdir. So for example, here I have an empty dir which is called empty-dir. Ironically, if I used rmdir, I will delete this directory. However, if I try to use rmdir on a directory that contains data like desktop, for example, as you can see here, rmdir will report an error, failed to remove the desktop directory not empty. And rmdir, like the mkdir, also has the -p option, -p for parent, and -p will let you delete all the directories in the path that you specify as long as those directories are empty. So for example, let's delete the Apple iOS, for example, directory because it is empty. No, it is not empty because it contains directories underneath it, 9 and update. Now once I delete this, you'll find that Apple does no longer exist. However, if I used rm-r to make the same thing, it will only delete the last directory in the path. So let's see this example again. I'm going to create the directory again. Okay, make the -p Apple iOS 9 update. Now, if let's first ensure that it exists, yes. Now, if I want to delete this using rm-rf like this, and pass in the path like this, you will find that it will only delete the last folder in the path, which is update. I can still go to Apple iOS 9, but now the last location or the last directory in the path is 9 instead of update. But rmdir, as we have seen, if I pass in -p, I can delete everything like this. Okay, and that brings us to the end of this section in Linux for Absolute Beginners by Avionics. My name is Ahmed. I hope you enjoyed this section and see you next. Thank you.